with that being said, we do have some news to talk about before we get to week 1, before we get to preseason games. Derek, the Cleveland Browns have released renderings for a projected $2.4 billion state-of-the-art stadium that resides in Brook Park. And Derek, I don't know about you, man, but when I was looking at those renderings, I was thinking to myself, oh my God. I don't think it's possible for this to happen in Cleveland. A stadium like this, the not only just the stadium, but everything around it. It's just so beautiful, state of the art. Derek, when you looked at those renderings of the Brook Park stadium, did it kind of flip your mindset as far as to the priority that staying in Cleveland should be? Or I guess what were your overall thoughts, especially before and after seeing those stadium renderings in the project itself?
Yeah, it's official. We're the Brook Park Browns. For better, for worse, there's a lot of people upset about it. Listen, my opinion has kind of changed a little bit. I was all for getting a dome, which, thank God, the Browns are not making the same mistake as the Buffalo Bills. It is a dome. Always a good thing. And the problem is just the logistics of it. And the problem here is you involve politics, taxes, those sorts of issues with the city of Cleveland and trying to get a stadium built. And, the unfortunate reality is it just wasn't going to happen. It was not going to happen downtown Cleveland. There was a $1 billion renovation proposed, but ultimately you can't put lipstick on a pig and expect it to last. That's just what it is. So yeah, $2.4 billion stadium. The renderings look incredible. Absolutely incredible. We've been to plenty of Browns games, Tristan. We've been to Cleveland Browns Stadium. I was just there literally a couple of days ago. And as we talked about before the podcast, my number one takeaway was, thank God, because we need a new stadium desperately. It is rough. It is rough. Cleveland Browns Stadium, it's home of our favorite team. But we got to look ourselves in the mirror here and realize that stadium sucks. It is not good. However, do I want the Browns downtown Cleveland? Absolutely. Do I want the Browns on the lake? Absolutely. If anything could be done to change this, that could make that happen, would do it in a heartbeat. I think the Browns belong in Cleveland, belong on the lake, but it's just not a reality. It's not a simple fix. This is what we have. We have the option of Brook Park, and we're now the Brook Park Browns. So, listen, the fact that the Haslams are going to put this amount of money into the future of this team, building a state-of-the-art stadium that looks great, looks unbelievable, I think it's going to pay off. I think it's going to help the city of Cleveland as well. I think it's going to bring a lot of people, a lot of money into the area. And Tristan, I don't know if you got to see the video, but the renderings of other events being at the new Cleveland Browns Stadium, that's what I'm excited about because that looked sick. Some of the concerts, sporting events. SummerSlam was just in Cleveland, which is where I was at. I can't even imagine what an event like a WrestleMania or SummerSlam again or something like that, being in this new Cleveland Browns Stadium would be unreal. Unreal. So I'm excited to say the least. The Browns lease with current Cleveland Browns Stadium ends in 2028. So if you want a timetable on when this is going to have to happen, we have another 4 to 5 years, I would say. So, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Tristan, Brook Park Browns, baby. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, so let me start by sharing the same sentiment that, obviously if it could work in Cleveland, we want it to work in Cleveland because at the end of the day, it's the Cleveland Browns, right? And there's a lot of history there. But at the same time, I think you and I are both at the standpoint, and I think a lot of Browns fans are kind of becoming accepting of this as well. it's just it's not possible. It's not possible. For many reasons, moving to Brook Park is the right move. Logistically, let's start there. For starters, it's now a what 60,000 seater right next to a major airport. Tell me any big concert, any big comedian, any big musical act, whatever, that wouldn't try to book to get into this stadium because it's so convenient right away, like right off to the side from the airport. And not only that, but it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's so many seats. Like it's going to be a stadium that year round gets a lot of use. I think you would be shocked if it went 1 week throughout the year where nobody was in there. That logistically that makes sense. Cleveland Browns Stadium, like right now, we like you said, we had SummerSlam, but how many events realistically are going on in there throughout the year? Not enough in my opinion. Let's talk about money wise too, because it does matter here. Now, albeit nothing is set in stone. A lot of this is secondhand information, so it's possible that a lot of this stuff could potentially not be completely accurate. So we know that Mayor Bibb, Mayor of Cleveland, offered, I think it was north of $400 million from the city for renovations for Cleveland Browns Stadium. That would be going straight out of taxpayers' pockets, and it would end up cutting out programs that in the city of Cleveland would need that funding. Whether we want to admit it or not, that's what would happen. How is that any different than what's going on in Brook Park? In Brook Park, albeit these details are not finalized, they're not set in stone at all. So I want to make that very clear right here, right now. But in Brook Park, Haslam's own the land. They're developing the land themselves, and essentially, they aren't getting any additional funding from Brook Park that has been reported yet. What it's been is that they are going to essentially get big time like tax relief, especially I believe the way it's going to be negotiated is an X amount of years of like non-taxed, right? And so while you won't be making any money off of that for X amount of years, you're gonna make more money off of the businesses around the new Cleveland Browns Stadium, starting to boom because it's there. You're going to get more, at least Brook Park will, revenue around there, and then eventually when those years pass, then you're going to start making some good money. But why is that important? Why does that matter? Well, because it's not going to be coming out of taxpayer pockets, at least what has been reported. I want to make sure I hammer that down. So in my mind, from a political standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. I think that it makes a lot of sense in that regard. Logistically, it makes a ton of sense. We have been talking about this. We need a stadium with a dome. I know that there are people that like the outdoor, like football was born outdoors.
Michael Cozy.
Yeah, like for me, it's just at some point you have to look at how can we set this team up to be set up for the future for the rest of time. Yeah. This is the type of move that does that. And that might sound like a crazy bold statement, but I don't think it is. This is the type of stadium, this is the type of home that not only will the Haslams make a lot of money by being able to have events year round in Cleveland Browns Stadium, and not only will Brook Park also make a lot of revenue in the future off of tax revenues, but also we have to remember it's not just the stadium that they bought the land. They're buying land to also have fan experiences, pro shops, other outside events. Like you saw that highlighted in the renderings, that outside of the stadium, they're going to have a lot of events and a lot of things going on. And all of those things are things that directly go into the Haslam's pocket. Now, you might say, Tristan, why do you think that's a good thing? The reason why that's a good thing is because the Haslams have been especially since the time Andrew Barry has taken over as GM and Paul Tibodesta has become the leading voice in the organization, the Haslams have invested so much money into this football team.
Yeah.
And this incentivizes them to keep on investing. It doesn't give them a reason to stop investing. And if there's a day where they no longer own the Browns, there's going to be revenue coming outside of the stadium that is going to enable the new owners to still invest the money that we've been getting invested in. For me, that's future-proofing. And I think that sets us up for long-term success. Now, before I go into the actual stadium, looks, the vibes and everything like that, the cool excitement that I have, let me hit it back. Let me go back to you, Derek. In regards to everything outside of the looks, like, you kind of talked about it. Like, it makes sense for us to do this, right? If Cleveland can't work, which it just won't. We see what the vision is. That's not possible in Cleveland. What are your thoughts on, kind of the logistics side of it, but then also kind of go into, tell me about how you feel it looks.
Yeah. I want people to understand. I want the Cleveland Browns to be downtown Cleveland. I want the Cleveland Browns to be on the lake. It's just not possible. Logistically, it wasn't possible. Politically, it wasn't possible. Financially, it wasn't possible. And you might say, well, Jimmy Haslam has the money. Well, it's not just Jimmy Haslam forking out a huge check and saying, let's get this done. This is the Haslams working with the city of Cleveland, working with the leaders, working with Mayor Bibb, trying to figure all this out. And it was not possible. As great as it was or could have been, hopefully in a perfect world, it just wasn't going to happen. This was the best decision for the future of the Cleveland Browns. It was a decision that, as you mentioned, this is a long-term financial investment. And when you look at how much teams are selling for in the NFL, it's going up and up and up and up. And what the Haslams are doing, they're investing a ton of money, $2.4 billion stadium. But what you mentioned, what they're doing around it, they're developing the land and they're kind of building almost like the subsection outside of Cleveland that is an extension of Cleveland. And that's going to benefit the Haslams, it's going to benefit the state of Ohio, and it's going to benefit the Cleveland area. So it's not as simple as, hey, I want the stadium on the lake. I do too. I would do anything to move this exact stadium where current Cleveland Browns Stadium is. It wasn't going to happen. It wasn't possible. But don't let that take away from what we're getting here. This is unbelievable, incredible, state-of-the-art, something you can be proud of, something you can be enthusiastic going into every Sunday, a stadium like this. It looks incredible from the inside. Now, Tristan, it is funny because there's a lot of people, especially fans of other teams, that are like, man, that kind of looks like a warehouse or it kind of looks like a mall. I want people to understand this. There's a reason why from the outside it does not look big. As you mentioned, the airport is right there. You can't build too high next to an airport. So the stadium is kind of, similar to the big house in Ann Arbor where it's kind of built in. So that's what this is. I want everybody out there who is not a fan of the Cleveland Browns to understand that is why it looks the way it does. But it's awesome. It's amazing. I love the glass roof or the glass ceiling. I think that's a really good look. We heard that they took a lot of inspiration from Minnesota Vikings Stadium, so makes a lot of sense. The dog pound is fascinating, Tristan, because the dog pound is now one huge section from bottom to top, all connected. As somebody who just sat in the dog pound for SummerSlam, I am very excited for these changes. I think this is going to look awesome. I think it is going to be, it's a game changer. I think it's a game changer for the Browns. It's a game changer for the city of Cleveland. I'm interested to see kind of the interior decorating of all of it. Like, what's the dog pound going to look like? What's the locker rooms going to look like? All those sorts of things. But all in all, I'm pumped. I'm very pumped. I think, at the end of the day, everybody's going to come around to it. It's going to take some getting used to. But I'm very excited. And as you said, it's an investment in this team. The Browns, the Haslams, Andrew Berry, I know it hasn't been like a long-term thing, but the Browns extended Andrew Berry. They extended Kevin Stefanski. They view those two as the heads of this ship. The Haslams are putting the financial behind it. And if you're really all in and you're going to take this team into the future the best you can, you want a dome. We're playing in Cleveland, Ohio. Lake Erie is literally right next to the stadium. The weather's not great. The wind swirls, snow, rain. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to play in Cleveland Browns Stadium. It is. If you want your team to be successful long term, you needed to build a dome. Tristan, we've talked about it how many times. The New Orleans Saints came into Cleveland in the winter and beat the Browns at home. That is just unacceptable. So this whole weather is our advantage and this is how we are. That's great. Love it. Love the enthusiasm. It's not realistic and it's not the reality. That's just what it is. So this had to be done. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see more. I'm very excited to see the developments and just kind of the stuff that comes out over time as we learn more about it. But yeah, it's interesting to say the least. It's fun.
Yeah, and to add on to that, like, home field advantage weather thing, like I hope people realize that, like, it's not like we're playing players that were born and bred in Cleveland, Ohio, and went to Ohio State. Like, over half of our roster we got from the SEC. Like,
LSU.
These guys, yeah, LSU, Bama, Aaron Emerson's, like, Mississippi State, like we almost everybody on our roster comes from like a southern school, like, and raised in the South. Like, there's not a lot of, like, guys born in the North that have played in the cold their entire life on this roster. There's not a ton of them. I mean, our quarterback went to Clemson. Like, like, there's so many examples of it, and I just think it's a biased argument. But the beauty of this stadium, the design is beautiful. It's so gorgeous. The glass roof. I have been looking up at, like,
I know,
in
me
the background
too.
the whole
Yeah.
time, like, looking at this ceiling, and it's just gorgeous. I mean, for those who are wondering, and maybe if it wasn't something that has been explained to you so far, the reason why the stadium is at a slant is for acoustics. It is to make the stadium louder. The reason why is because, can I point to?
They probably won't see it, but
Fuck. Oh, here we go. So, over further, like, pretty much right behind where Derek is where the dog pound is going to be, right?
Yep.
Where it's all that one huge section, like you said. When those voices are coming across from here, they're going to go up and they're going to bounce off of this roof. And it is going to travel along the roof and pretty much circulate throughout the stadium. That's what the sound waves are going to do. This stadium is going to be, if not the loudest, one of the loudest stadiums in the league. It's going to be... You want to talk about a home field advantage? Imagine having the loudest stadium in the league. That is what this stadium is going to do. And it's beautiful, and I love it. The other thing that I really like is it is a glass roof. You have so much natural light that it's almost like you're not really playing in a dome. Like, it's essentially like insulated outdoors or weather controlled outdoors. Like, there's not going to be this issue with like, just the typical, like, dome type of feel where you kind of feel like cramped in and, like, there's nothing special about it. It doesn't feel like football. It feels like arena football almost. Like, I don't think we're gonna get that vibe here. We're gonna get a lot of natural light. It's gonna look good. I'm confident in that. And just everything that surrounds the stadium too just looks so gorgeous. And there was something that was really interesting to me, and that was like the tailgating. I thought that
Yeah.
they are embracing the tailgating, and not only that, but imagine we have a home playoff game in Cleveland, and I know they kind of very subtly viewed it or showed it throughout the renderings. They're going to be able to stream the games against like big sections of the stadium or areas around, so that way we can actually go to Cleveland Browns Stadium and watch the game from outside the stadium. Like, you remember those shots of just downtown Cleveland going absolutely berserk after outside of the queue when
Mm-hmm.
when the Cavs won
Yep.
the championship. Like, I feel like if we are lucky enough to get to that moment, we could have moments like that outside of the stadium. And I think that would be really cool, and I think that'd be really unique. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Now, Derek, I talked a little bit about the looks. What are some of your, and we talked about how much we like this
Mm-hmm.
in this renderings and how great everything looks. What are some of your concerns when it comes to the Brook Park Stadium? Because I know I do have a couple concerns.
So my I wouldn't say it's necessarily a concern, but I'm interested to see how they go about fixing this problem where it currently is, if that makes sense. So, okay, current Cleveland Browns Stadium, being where it's at on the lake, there's one way in and there's one way out, right? All the traffic, all the, post game, pre game, you're all coming in one way and you're going out one way. It's cool when you're walking back to your car and you're in a sea of people who are all Browns fans and you're all kind of this, unrelated family. It's sick. It's awesome. It's a cool environment. But, but it sucks. It's not fun. It is not fun trying to get there. It's not fun trying to get out of there. The nice thing about Brook Park, based on what I've been told, because obviously I don't live in Cleveland, I've never been to Brook Park, at least I don't remember in my lifetime. It's going to be a lot better as far as the traffic flow, parking, all those sorts of things. I think the Browns, the Haslams in this development, they really need to put a priority on that, trying to figure this problem out, because it is a problem. It is a problem. As far as concerns go, I mean, I would say more so I have questions than concerns right now. It's more of like logistics things of, okay, how's this going to work? What is this going to look like? Some of the stuff that we have going right now. But I do want to pivot just a tad and touch on what you mentioned, the sound, right? Going back to SummerSlam real fast and going back to times that have been really loud in that stadium, that even when me and you were there, right? That stadium gets loud, right? And Roman Reigns returned for the first time in 4 months a couple days ago at SummerSlam. I don't know what just happened. My light just went out. I'll fix that in 1 second. But it was loud. It was unbelievably loud in that stadium. I couldn't barely hear myself. I have it on video. You can hear how loud it is. Chunk, I don't know how many of you guys know Chunk. I don't think he's ever been on this channel. But anyway, friend of mine, also there, he said he couldn't hear his cousin who was right next to him. So that's how loud it was in current Cleveland Browns Stadium. Imagine this stadium, Tristan. Because last year at the home opener, when Myles Garrett sacked Joe Burrow, the roar was insane. Absolutely insane, right? Jets game when we clinched the playoffs. Insane. I can't even imagine having a stadium designed and built for even more noise. If you have kids, you better bring earplugs, because eardrums are going to be hurting when you leave Cleveland Browns Stadium. But I'll throw it over to you, and I'm going to go fix my light.
Dude, just imagining the sound of a home playoff game in that stadium would be insane. I mean, I remember And we've talked about this moment a few times where I remember when Jerome Ford got that went berserk and went on that beast mode like run and got that touchdown against the Jets, and just how loud the stadium was in that moment. And the Ronnie Hickman pick six, like the just that one game, like the loudness of that moment, and just the joy in the atmosphere, like it was just so palpable and you could feel it in your blood. And I don't know about you, man, but that night I went home after the adrenaline had kind of worn down a little, and my legs, like my knees, my feet were just aching because we were standing and jumping the whole time, like even tailgating. And it's just like moments like that were amazing. Imagine how much louder and how much more like adrenaline's can be pumping through your veins in those moments in this stadium. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah.
But let me now pivot to a couple of my concerns. And again, similar to like what you said, it's more so questions than concerns at this time. Because
before you,
oh yeah, go for it.
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but before
No,
you
you're
do
good.
that, thought that crossed my mind when I was going to plug my light back in, which, by the way, I don't know how that happened. I don't know what just happened.
I thought Hell's
Anyway.
Bells were gonna go off and Undertaker was gonna.
I was about to say, I was like, but no. Thought I had. Cleveland is home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, is it not? If you have a stadium, a brand new stadium, designed for more noise, like we've already mentioned it, but the events that are going to go there are going to be insane. But Cleveland, Ohio is the home of rock and roll. Bro, could you imagine some of the concerts that's going to be there?
The acoustics that
Yeah.
that they would get is incredible. Like that's the other part with like this slant here is essentially they showed it in the renderings, like pretty much where Derek is right now, is where the stage would be, and so all that sound again is traveling up, like it's perfect acoustics. So like the concerts that will be there, the musicals that will be there, whatever the events that will take place there are going to be awesome, especially acoustics wise.
Yeah, but that was just a random thought I had. Was like, man, you got the airport right there. You got the Hall of Fame down the street, bro.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I'm pumped.
I'm
But
pumped
anyway,
too.
sorry. Back to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm thankful that you cut me off there before I went, excuse me, into my questions / concerns that I had. The very first thing is cost. Whenever there's a major development like this, oftentimes it can skyrocket the costs, which I think would be unfair, especially to the Browns fans who've had season tickets for years and years and years and have been loyal to this team through thick and thin and a lot of thick, a lot of tough times. I think that it would be unfair if season tickets are now 25% more. I think that would be ridiculous, right? We know that there pretty much is it's almost never going to happen ever again where ticket prices drastically go down in price because of the weather. That's not going to happen here. So, as fans, I think we can kind of take that on the chin and accept that. You know what? Listen, we're not going to be able to go to some bad weather games and get as cheap of tickets as we used to, even when the team is good. Or even when the team is bad, I should say. So cost is my first concern. What's the cost gonna look like for the average fan? Because if it's gonna stay the same, or I could understand like a 10% increase, like I could understand that, right? But if it skyrockets, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Especially if parking around the stadium is going to be a lot more expensive. If all of the extracurricular stuff that we're talking about, like around the stadium, the activities are really expensive. I want to make sure that this is something that the majority of fans can afford to enjoy. That for me is the most important thing. The other thing is, and this is something that always comes up when we talk about indoor stadiums, and especially in football. Are we playing on turf or are we playing on natural grass? That is a legit concern. My hope is that they're able to make it work with natural grass. How realistic is it? I don't know. But those details eventually will come out. But I think that's a legitimate concern for us Browns fans, because at the end of the day, I've seen what that MetLife turf has done to so many players. I don't want that happening here. We deserve better than that. And I hope that the Haslams are gonna put that extra investment in and do natural turf, or natural grass, I should say, because I think that we have to protect our players, because man, like last year, just seeing Nick Chubb go down, like that, it was a gut wrenching feeling. If he had that incident happen on a turf field, and it would have been a just plain turf injury like you see all the time, I think we would have been a lot more pissed than we were. Even though we definitely, I know you especially, were calling for Micah Fitzpatrick's head.
Still am.
Still.
Myles, do your thing. No, I'm just kidding. Not that.
That's
not
crazy.
That.
But so just in my opinion, this much investment, get it right, make it perfect, make it so that way anybody who complains about it is just out of their mind, and any rational person can see that they're just out of their mind. That's what I want to see out of this project. But man, just so much optimism with it, man. It's so gorgeous. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I have, I'm going to regret asking you this question.
Yeah.
But I do have one question for you.
Okay.
New Cleveland Browns Stadium opens up, first game. Everybody's pumped. Will Deshaun Watson be starting quarterback?
Well, what's he right now? Like 28, right? He's 27, 28?
I think, something like that.
So we'd be looking at, let's say it's the 2029, 2030 NFL season. Or no. Would it be the 28, 29?
Yeah, should
regardless.
be.
So about 4 or 5 years, right? So you'd be looking at him between 31 and 33. I mean, if he is, it's like gonna be one of his last years, because it's very, very unlikely that his body holds up that long. And also, I mean, that answer could be a definitive yes or a definitive no at the end of this year. We'll have an answer. My opinion, yeah. I'm optimistic for him.
Wow.
I'm choosing to be optimistic. I'll say that. Until, you know what? I just want to try to go into the season with as much positivity as possible. So,
fair enough.
What about you? What do you think?
If I had to put money on it, I'm hammering that no, because there is, I don't know, dude. I just think it's a fascinating question. It was brought up not just with Deshaun Watson, but of this current roster, who's still going to be a member of the Browns when that's
a very legitimate question. That's a very legitimate question. Because, I mean, is even Myles Garrett going to be here still?
I hope.
I hope so too, but I don't know, man. Like that's a long ways down the road. But but with that being said, any final thoughts on Brook Park before we move on to our next topic?
Very excited. Very excited. Very happy that this is kind of done.
Yeah. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you.